here we go. A conversation about the first precept, and we haven't rehearsed this, by the way. So you know, wish us luck.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
It's like parenting.
Okay, so are we all the video's all set up? We're all good. Good, brilliant. Okay. So, Moksalila, can you tell us when you had your children? Were you already involved with Buddhism? Did that affect your decision to have children, or was that separate?
Well, when I first came across Buddhism, Hannah and Ben, my two children, they were 3 and 4. I went to learn to meditate with a yoga counselor, with Ashra, who was then John, my partner. And so we went along we went to a meditation session, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think anything more about it. But for John, he just thought, oh, this is it, this is what I've been looking for. And I know some of you know this story, but he bought, I think, nearly all of Sangharashtra's books following on from that one session, and he bought all of the recorded talks of Sangharashtra. And after about a year of him reading really avidly, and me getting quite reactive, to say the least, I was really quite fierce and quite threatened by that. And we had a camper van, and we went off to Morocco, and we had, I think we had 7 days in the camper van, you know, travelling down through Spain and into Africa. And
with your children?
With the children, and John played all of Dante's tapes. So I'm not sure how many there were, but there were an awful lot. I think it might have been, we might have had 7 talks a day, something like that. And as I say, I was quite fearful at that time, and I tried really hard to sort of sleep through them. but in a way, you know, I think sometimes when you're half awake and half asleep, that's when information really goes in. And so I think I probably absorbed quite a lot of those talks. And when we came back from that holiday, things had got to a bit of they reached a bit of a crescendo. And I couldn't really hear from John about Buddhism because I felt so reactive. So I decided I was going to go on an introductory sort of session. I think it was 8 weeks or something, which is very nice and such a. And in the first week I went, they talked about the precepts. And it was just like a light coming on. I just thought, oh, this makes sense to me. This really makes sense. I loved hearing about, you know, these what felt like really beautiful principles of, you know, love and generosity and truthfulness, contentment. And really, I think I got hooked after that, really. Right. So then I started to dip my toe in very gently with 2 young children. It was quite a
So, did you have a sense at that point, now that you'd come to it yourself on your own terms, as it were, did you have a sense of trying to sort of integrate that into your experience of being a parent? Did it feel separate, what you were doing? Or?
That's a good question. I think, actually, I think having come across those precepts, it felt immediately like I've got a compass for my life, and I felt that I've got a compass for Hannah and Ben's life as well, because I've been brought up as in this very strict, I don't know what you call it really, sort of Christian sect really. It was a very strict form of Christianity, and I felt that I didn't want to. I didn't want to sort of make my children practice anything, but I wanted to give them some sort of ethical purpose. And I felt that the precepts, you know, gave that. So I was very delighted to have those. But of course, it's an ongoing journey, practicing the precepts ourselves, and then trying to impart the messages, the precepts to our children. They learn, for example, information as well as from teaching. So yes, I think I did start to integrate it quite soon. But then I had to make a lot of changes myself over the years, and still am doing. That's ongoing.
So, in terms of, you know, when I asked if you would be up for doing this, and you said you wanted to do the first precept, what was it that drew you to volunteering to cover the first precept for us?
Well, I suppose it's so fundamental, you know, to be. Yes, that I feel like I've been on quite a journey of learning to love, really, and I think that well, I think I'm quite used to it, really. when I look back over the years, when I look back over how I parented, I have got some really big regrets. You know, I think that I tried my best, but of course I tried my best, but I think that now when I've made quite a lot of changes, I can see that I quite often wasn't as present and as engaged with Hannah and Ben as I wished that I had been, as I am now, and I have made a lot of changes. But I suppose I look back and I see how I and what I wanted and got in the way sometimes of being able to be really there and present with Hannah and Ben. So, and I just think it's such, you know, if we can learn to really, really love our children, you know, then we just have to keep opening, don't we? Just keep opening that, you know, keep opening, and then including more and more people in that. So it's such a vision for practice. And I've actually brought along just a little section from a book by actually called The Yogi's Joy, and he writes about the first precept in a really beautiful way. I came across it about 8 years ago, and it really struck me. So that page I just read to me, a section from it. I think it's a really inspiring presentation of the first precept. So he says that at the heart of the first precept is the awareness that a living being is essentially a growing being, a developing being. That is the raison d'etre of that being's existence, to grow, to evolve. And the precept asks you to consider what any living being's process of development consists in, where the energy is moving, and how to avoid getting in the way. And he goes on to say that sometimes a person who has only the vaguest idea of the direction their own life is taking can be quite definite in their analysis of the practice of others. So this is the first precept, just stand clear.
So did that inform you in terms of, because I was going to say, you know, how do we learn to love our children? Because in a way, actually, you know, somebody, you might feel a bit shocked by that, so think, well, of course I love my children right from the get-go, which we may do in some ways, but it might not fully develop until later. And then how, was that instrumental, that idea of getting out of the way?
That was instrumental. Right. It was instrumental. 8 years ago when I came across it. And actually I had had quite a teaching from my daughter Hannah when she was 11, which connects with this. And she'd been going through a really difficult time with her friendship groups, and she had quite a lot of difficulties with friends actually at the school that she went to. She was very upset and very distressed, and she was wanting to talk about it. And well, some of you know I trained as a counsellor and a psychotherapist, and I sort of went into complete overdrive with Hannah. So it was a bit like I was wanting to fix the problem and take away all the suffering, and I just went mad with all these questions. Have you tried this, and have you tried that, and you could try this and that, and you know, bringing out all the techniques that I'd learned. She sort of let me roll for about 10 minutes or so, and then she just said, "Mum, I just want you to listen." And it really stopped me in my tracks. And in actual fact, what she was saying in that was that you know, she didn't want me to take away the suffering. She wanted me to really witness her. And so I think that teaching in Hannah, along with Bancho's presentation of the first precept here, has had a very big impact, and I have been really trying to keep that in mind with Hannah and Ben as they've got older. I mean, obviously they're 25 and 26 now, but they, you know, still their mum, and they still come to me and ask me things. And I think one of the biggest things for me has been well, I've had to grow big enough to hold their suffering. We just don't want our children to suffer. We want to take the suffering away, but actually suffering is part of what it means to be human. And so I think you know, probably wise parenting is about helping our children to stay with suffering sometimes, and to help them to keep it in that really big context that is what it means to be human. And do you have pleasure? Do you have joy? And we have very difficult times too. It's a bit like they've got to build their muscles up again, and I've had to build my own muscles up in that area.
That can be so hard, I think, particularly with children. It's heartbreaking because I think you want everything to just be great for them.
You do.
And it's particularly heartbreaking, and it feels so natural to want to go and make everything better, but we just can't all the time.
No, we can't. And when Ben, as you know, Ben, my son Ben, who's 25 now, and he went through a very, very painful period from, I think, 16 to 21, when he had depression, which came on as a result of an acne burn, along with other things, and it was very, very painful to witness that. And I see him now, and he has grown hugely as a result of that experience. He, you know, had to find, along with Atra and myself, and he had to find a way through that, and he has grown as a result.
It's great to see that, isn't it? But it's reassuring.
It's reassuring. It's reassuring. Yes.
The first precept is for self and other, and that can feel like a bit of a tension sometimes in parenting, particularly. Is that something you experience? Did you experience that tension as a parent, trying to get a balance or trying to look after yourself as well as look after your family?
Oh, well, bit of a tension, Kamalanandi. Huge tension. For me, huge tension, which has always been the case from the very start, you know, coming across Buddhist pattern, realising that meant that I had to begin to get to know myself more deeply. You know, and I've made some really quite fundamental changes. How to do that in the midst of parenting is so full on, isn't it, with these little babies and these little children, and you know, so busy trying to make a living, look after them. It's hard. It's very hard, and I think the tension is still there for me. And you know, Hannah and Ben have both left home now, but they sometimes come back again, and they sometimes need a bit more help again, you know, along the way. And in fact, actually at Christmas time, I was booked to go on an order weekend, and Hannah became really ill. And in the end, I had a decision to make the night before, and I did decide to cancel the order weekend and go down to London and look after her for the weekend. And I was glad that I'd made that decision. It was really hard. It could have gone either way. It's not like there's a right or a wrong, really. You have to make those decisions in the moment, all of the time. But I also think that tension is quite creative, because there is no balance. I don't believe there is a balance. I've never found one. I've been looking for the last 20 years, but I've never found a balance there. You know, there are times when I think we have to really focus on ourselves. You know, I mean, in my own case, there was something quite big that erupted. I can't remember how long ago it was now. Quite a long time ago. It was about 2000 something But anyway, it was a huge thing that I sort of pushed down in myself when it erupted, and I had no choice. I had to give it attention, and actually it took about 6 years to really integrate it, and it took a huge amount of working through with action as well, because it impacted on women as well as on men. Thank goodness for the precepts, because I think that they actually protected us in some way. Oh, that's 3 minutes left. Yeah, I feel that the precepts really, when I didn't know where the answer lay, what I did know I could do was to go back to the precepts as the guide and the compass. I did find a way through that. And then I sort of integrated this really big part of myself enough. And then I thought, actually now, I just want to really give time and focus to Hammer and Ben. I put a lot of energy into that, and that felt like the right thing to do. And I did make mistakes. I have made mistakes. One of the great things is that we can go, well, I have been able to go back to Hammer and Ben to talk to them about some of those things when they've got older, and to really acknowledge things that I've said, things that I've done that have impacted on me, that I've been not happy about. And we've been able to come into communication around that. I do appreciate them a lot for their generous openness around that. It's great.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it just shows that in the family unit, what we do will affect everybody else. You know. And I think it's really good for you to say there is no balance. I think I'm certainly always striving for this. You know, I think I probably need to stop bothering with not to say stop trying, but thinking that this idea of perfect balance and harmony where everything's just great.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. Or it might exist for a moment, but it's typically on again. But one of the things I would like to say is that I think that being a parent has trained me in how to be wholehearted. Because certainly in the beginning when Hannah and Ben were young, I could only get on one retreat a week. I could get to probably one class a week. That was all, realistic. But what I could do was when I was on retreat, when I was at a class, I could be completely wholehearted in a way that I've never experienced before. And so I really learned about becoming wholehearted, and I think I've had such a training in that through parenting. It's such a precious opportunity to get on the street. It's such a precious opportunity to get to class. Make the most of it. Don't waste that time. So I feel really like I've learned a lot from that.
Well, we could wrap up there, I think, shall we? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kamalanandi.